What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 35. So I'm going to show you how the team is looking for this week, thoughts on what transfer I'm going to make, and also what my plans are for the rest of the season. And I'll quickly show you how I did in Game Week 34 as well. So let's get into it. So let's start with Game Week 34. I know the game week isn't quite over yet, but because of the Friday deadline, I've got to put this video out as normal on Thursday. And I've got no players remaining anyway, so no one from Forest or Brentford. So my score is done. I played my free hit and it went great. I scored 100 points and that took me from 125k to 67k as it stands. Now, because I got no players left tonight, I will drop. How big of a drop, I don't yet know. But if MBEUMO, Visser, Chris Wood, the Forest defence could all blank, that would definitely do me a favour. I think the reality is I'll probably be back down to about 90k after tonight's game. If I can stay within the top 80k, I'd be really happy with that. And I can push on to try and finish inside the top 50k, which is still going to be difficult, but it definitely feels more doable now than before I free hit. So it's just one of those weeks where nearly everything worked out. And it's quite funny because last season, I free hit in a blank, and people that free hit in the double did really well. There was all this chat about you should never free hit in a blank game week. That's exactly what I've done this year, and it's gone really well. Maybe the lesson should be learned that we just free hit in Game Week 34. Because last year, free hit 34 was a double. People smashed it. This year, free hit 34 was a blank. People smashed it. We'll see what comes up next season. In terms of where the points came from, apart from Cunha with a 15-pointer, most of it was in defence. Jose Sarr, an absolute hero, saved the penalty from Jamie Vardy, so got points for that. But that also meant he got the clean sheet. And I had 8 Nuri for 11 points. So Jose Sarr 12, 8 Nuri 11. Sarr saves the penalty, keeps the clean sheet, so I get a double clean sheet for Wolves. And I don't know what it was, but the closer I got to the deadline, the more obsessed I became with having double Wolves defence against a poor Leicester side. And I did have, until 1 minute 10 seconds before the deadline, Pope and Semedo instead of Sarr and Trippier. But Trippier was in most of my drafts, and he just felt like the more attacking option. And obviously there's a huge amount of luck there, but the swing was incredible. Pope just getting a clean sheet. Semedo just got a clean sheet. Instead, I had 2 assists and a penalty save. So Jose Sarr 12, 8 Nuri 11, Sessegnon scoring right at the death. And that's just one of those things where we talk about template picks and differentials all the time. Sometimes you just need a bit of luck. Like before the deadline, Sessegnon was just one of those players that you could just not turn down on a free hit. A defender playing right wing against Southampton. In the end, he plays left back. And he doesn't score till like the final minute. That goal doesn't go any blanks. And then all of a sudden we're saying, well, why did we go for him when we could have gone for someone more safe? So it's always fine margins. I definitely got a huge amount of luck this week. Barnes blank, so did Palmer again. Luis Diaz 7 points, Salah captain 16. And obviously Cunha absolutely smashed it. And again, we talk about template picks and differentials. I could have gone different and backed against Cunha. And I'd be massively down on that. Sometimes picking the obvious players is a pretty decent strategy. Isak 6 and Raul Jimenez 1. Jimenez has been so bad for me. I've had him in 2 games against Southampton. I think he's played about 120 minutes or something like that. No goals, no assists, 2 yellow cards. A 0 pointer and a 1 pointer. Just absolutely rubbish. But I do it all over again. My front line had Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton to play. I think that was worth targeting. So overall, a great week. Probably goes down as my 3rd favourite thing to happen so far this season, behind Bruno Fernandes smashing it for a period and triple Arsenal defence. I hope the rest of the game weeks are like this. I suspect they won't be, but let's see what Game Week 35 is looking like. So I'm pretty happy with how my defence looks this week. I've got the double up on Arsenal with Raya and Saliba against Bournemouth. I definitely think Arsenal will rotate in that game, but I think both of Raya and Saliba will play. And it's not going to be an easy game to get a clean sheet because of the rotation and the fact that Bournemouth are just a good side. But it's not that terrible of a fixture on paper. And ultimately, I've only got 1 transfer, and I don't think it's worth using on a defender this week. So I'm going to keep those 2 in my side. If Raya doesn't play, which seems very, very unlikely, I've got Martinez on the bench for Villa against Fulham anyway. And if Saliba doesn't play, I've got Livramento against Brighton away and Nico Williams against Palace away. There's not a huge amount of other defenders that I would feel would be a necessity this week to use a transfer on. So Saliba and Raya stay. Then I've got Munoz against Forest at home. I think there's going to be some chat about Palace focusing on the FA Cup final, minutes and stuff like that. ultimately that final's not for another couple of weeks. They've got plenty of gaps between games until then. Forest at home is not a bad fixture. Munoz is so attacking. We shouldn't forget that. So he definitely stays. And then Vardy is just a great pick for the rest of the season. Wolves at home, decent fixture, good set-piece threat. No need to get rid of him. So one free transfer, not planning on using it on my defence. So I'm playing all 5 of my midfielders this week. I've got the double up on Crystal Palace attack against Forest at home with Sarr and Eze. Salah's got Chelsea away, Saka's Bournemouth at home, and Rodgers is at home to Fulham. On Sarr and Eze, the same thing basically applies that I mentioned with Munoz. I think for the next 2 games, Glasner will basically play a full-strength side, and I'm not going to worry about playing attackers against Forest at home this week and Spurs away next week. I know a lot of people will be frustrated with Sarr and the amount of returns he's had recently, but I suspect if Palace had just beaten Villa 3-0 in the league and Sarr had walked away with 3 attacking returns, people would be talking about form and all this kind of stuff. We know these 2 players can get points, and I think they've got the fixtures to do that. And again, it's about whether or not there's a player that I should be looking to bring in instead. And I've only got 0.2 million in the bank. So I can't do Sarr or Eze to Bowen or MBEUMO without a second transfer, which would then be a hit. So for me, they're pretty easy to hold on to. Plus, for those people that didn't free hit last week, I suspect there was a lot of sales for both of those players. Eze was already somewhat of a differential. I'm more than happy to keep hold of them. With Salah, I suspect that he'll just be in my team for the rest of the season if, and it's a big if, Pep says that Haaland's available for game week 35 and Man City get a double announced at some point for 36, I might consider selling Salah to get Haaland. Otherwise, I'm probably going to dodge him. Like, if he got minutes against Wolves, then all of a sudden he's a huge differential captain against Southampton, but I'd have to make 2 transfers to get him in and just ignore everything else that I want to do. So I suspect whatever happens, I'm probably going to dodge Haaland unless Man City get a double, in which case I'll probably give it a second thought. And to fund Haaland, I'd probably have to sell Salah. But as it stands, there's no plans for me to get rid of him. I think he'll continue to start every game for Liverpool. There's nothing to rest him for or rotate him for. His minutes might drop a little bit. Overall, Liverpool's performances might drop, but I'm still expecting Salah to get plenty of points. So he will remain in the team. Same with Morgan Rodgers. I've seen some comments going around that he's looked tired recently and stuff like that. Villa have had a lot of games this season. He's played the majority of them as well. But ultimately, he's still such good value. Like, I like the Bournemouth midfielders like Kluivert and Semenyo, but I'm not going to buy them before they play Arsenal away. They're really targets for game week 38 when they play Leicester at home. So I think with Morgan Rodgers, if you look at the fixtures he's got, like Fulham at home this week, then I think it's Bournemouth away, then Spurs at home, then Man United away. If I've got to play him in all of those fixtures, it's really not the end of the world, and I'm pretty happy to have him in the team. So no real issues with those midfielders, apart from possibly Saka. Bournemouth at home could easily get benched. Then it's Liverpool away in game week 36, which is not a great fixture. I am considering selling him to MBEUMO, and when I say I'm considering doing it, I don't see what's going to stop me doing it. I'm pretty sure this will be my transfer before we get to the game week 35 deadline. If I could convince myself that Saka will start against Bournemouth, maybe I just roll. But I'm not sure what information I'm going to get that's going to make me think that. Like, Arteta might come out in the press conference and say they need to play strong, they want to get back to a winning mentality, etc. But realistically, they can bench players against Bournemouth and still go and beat PSG. And why take the risk? So it might be that I buy Saka back later on. And I think generally that's not a great use of transfers, to transfer someone out just to buy them back pretty soon afterwards. But I think in this case, it might work for my team if I can get lucky with injuries. And I'll show you that a bit later on. But that's what I think I'm going to do. Saka to MBEUMO. It's going to be a really popular move this week. If I had more money in the bank, I'd consider selling Rodgers, Eze or Sarr instead. But I don't. For what it's worth, by the way, if I do Saka to MBEUMO, it gives me enough money to upgrade one of those other 3 midfielders to Bowen for a -4. And I do like West Ham's fixtures. But again, I'm not sure it's worth a hit. Is Bowen this week against, who is it? Yeah, Spurs at home, worth a -4 over Sarr, Eze and Rodgers? I don't think he is. There's going to be a lot of hype around Bowen, rightly so, but he's not that good that it's worth taking a 4-point hit for. So I suspect my midfield move will be Saka to MBEUMO, and I won't spend any hits after that. And then up front, I've got Isak against Brighton away, Marmoush against Wolves at home, who's currently my captain, and on the bench, it's Evan Nielsen against Arsenal away. Now he's had that suspension lifted, I'm basically going to keep Evan Nielsen for the rest of the season. Hopefully, if it works out, I can bench him against Arsenal away, play him against Villa at home, possibly bench him against Man City away, and then have him ready for Leicester at home in game week 38. And he's still such good value, I don't really want to get rid of him. I think there's a lot of good forwards at the moment, like Visser, Wood, Cunha, etc., especially in 36. Wood's got Leicester at home, Visser's got Ipswich away. But I'm actually quite happy with the forwards that I've already got in my team. So I don't know if I'll be targeting any other forwards right now, but possibly down the line that could happen. Isak's fixtures are not the best right now. I've already spoken in other videos this week that if you've got Newcastle players, you could keep hold of them, but I wouldn't be looking to buy any new. I think that also applies to Isak, but because he's absolutely nailed right now, we know his goal threat's one of the best in the league, he's on penalties, etc. He's not really a priority to get rid of. So although on paper Brighton away is not a great fixture, it certainly isn't terrible. Newcastle are more than capable of going and scoring a couple of goals in that game, and if they're going to do that, Isak will probably be involved. So I'm keeping him for now. And then with Marmoush, I do have the armband on him right now because I kind of want to back against Salah, but I'll be realistic. If I do Saka to MBEUMO, I might even just switch the armband to him instead. I'm not sure I'm actually going to keep the armband on Marmoush by the deadline, but with my current team, that's where it is. If Haaland's back, either in 35 or 36, that will reduce Marmoush's minutes. But because it's Southampton away next week, I'm not going to sell him because he could still start even with Haaland in the team. The only thing that would play on my mind is whether or not to captain him. But again, MBEUMO's got Ipswich away in game week 36. So I can just play it safe with him instead of having to go for Marmoush. So I don't think there's any transfers my team needs this week, apart from that Saka to MBEUMO move, just to show you what it would look like over the next couple of weeks, because I've had a few thoughts about what the rest of my transfers might be, right up until game week 38. And don't get me wrong, injuries and suspensions will happen. The plans you have for the next 4 or 5 weeks never end up being the ones you actually go for. But I think it looks quite nice. So this is my team on the My Team tour on Fantasy Football Hub. As always, links in the description below. I've already made the move of Saka to MBEUMO for game week 35. So this is what the team looks like in game week 36. Because the My Team tour has Ben Crellin's potential fixture projections included, they are showing some double game weeks here, but I'm just going to assume they're single game weeks only for this week. So I would have Raya against Liverpool away or Martinez against Bournemouth away. It doesn't really matter who I pick because I would play Evan Nielsen and Salah. So either way, I've got an attacker against a goalkeeper. I'd probably just keep Raya in goal. Vardio against Southampton away. Munoz against Spurs away is not ideal. I wouldn't necessarily expect a clean sheet in that game. But I think he's better than playing Saliba against Liverpool away or Livramento against Chelsea at home. And even in a game like that, Munoz can deliver attack and returns. So I'd be happy enough playing him against Spurs. And then I've got Nico Williams against Leicester at home, which is obviously a really good fixture. Midfield is Salah against Arsenal at home, and MBEUMO Ipswich away. Then Sarr and Eze against Spurs away, which again is a perfectly fine fixture for an attacker. Evan Nielsen, Villa at home. Isak, Chelsea at home. Then Marmoush, Southampton away. So I probably wouldn't need a transfer in 36 unless there's doubles. And hopefully by the Game Week 36 deadline, we will know whether they're happening or not. We should find out before the Game Week 35 deadline, but at the time of recording, that hasn't happened yet. So I would probably roll in Game Week 36. And then in 37, it's Raya, Saliba, Newcastle at home, Munoz, Wolves at home. My main worry with 37 is having 3 Palace. Munoz, Eze, Sarr against Wolves at home. On paper's a good fixture, but if that hasn't become a double game week in 36... it'll be after the FA Cup semi-final. So it'll be the FA Cup final, which will be on the Saturday. Then they'd play midweek against Wolves and then on the weekend for game week 38. So either they've beaten Man City in the final, in which case there's a lot of celebrations going on and they're probably not going to be that effective against Wolves, or they've lost, and who knows how you react to that kind of from a mental and physical point of view and stuff like that. So it's not going to be ideal, but I think Munoz against Wolves at home is still better than Livramento against Arsenal away and Nico Williams against West Ham away on the bench. So I'd play Munoz. Evan Nielsen would drop back to the bench. Rodgers against Spurs at home. MBEUMO, Fulham at home. Salah, Brighton away is all fine. Isak against Arsenal away is not great. But again, at that point, I'm probably just holding him for the whole season. And then Marmoush, Bournemouth at home. What I would be tempted to do in 37 is to get Saka back. So potentially I could sell Eze, so reduce my risk a little bit on Palace players after the FA Cup final, get rid of him and put in Saka instead. So he would come back in for Newcastle at home and Southampton away. I don't think Saka is essential by any means for Newcastle at home, but especially if Arsenal are out of the Champions League, there's going to be no rotation for Saka, and he's probably one of the best midfield options for the final 2 weeks. So he would come in, and then I'd have to make up 1.1 million. So that would be something like Marmoush out, potentially for Bournemouth at home, and then bringing in a cheap forward. So I'd have 6.3 million to spend. There's quite a few options, actually. None of them are necessarily amazing standout options, but Delap that week's got Leicester away, Vardy's got Ipswich at home, and even someone like Njai or Beto for Everton have got Southampton at home. So maybe one last punt on a Jamie Vardy party just for Ipswich at home, and that allows me the funds to get Saka back. So I think that team overall for 37 looks pretty good. I think the weak points are probably Munoz and Sarr and the fact that Isak's playing Arsenal away. But overall, it's not terrible. This is obviously hoping that I don't get any injuries by then, which could happen. This is just all in theory. And then game week 38, I think it looks pretty great overall. Like as good as it could be. So Evan Nielsen will come back in for Leicester at home, either for Rodgers against Man United away or Vardy against Bournemouth away. I'd probably bench Vardy in all honesty and just play Rodgers. I think that's fairly straightforward. Munoz can come out for Liverpool away, so it doesn't matter that I keep him the whole way through. Livramento comes in against Everton at home. I'd have the double up on Saliba and Raya against Southampton away. Vardio's got Fulham away, again, not necessarily an amazing fixture, but not terrible to have to play him in it. Salah Palace at home, MBEUMO Wolves away, Sarr Liverpool away, Saka Southampton away, so triple up on Arsenal again, and then Isak's got Everton at home as well. And also I'd have a free transfer, so I can get rid of Sarr, basically for another Bournemouth player against Leicester at home. Maybe a punt on like a Trossard or a Martinelli or someone like that. But ultimately, I'd probably just go for Kluivert or Semenyo. So maybe Semenyo as a differential because I think most people would go for Kluivert. That looks pretty good to me. Double Bournemouth against Leicester at home. Double Newcastle against Everton at home. Triple Arsenal against Southampton away. Salah, who's great. And then it's like Vardy and Rodgers. So in theory, that plan could work nicely. But I'm telling you now, the idea of taking a player out to bring them back in 2 weeks later with nothing else going wrong doesn't work that often. But I think ultimately, selling Saka to MBEUMO this week just makes so much sense that even if I get to 36 or 37 and something else goes wrong and I can't get Saka back, it's not necessarily the end of the world. I would love him for Southampton away, but if I can't have him, I'll just captain Salah instead. And even if I buy Saka, I might captain Salah anyway. So there's not necessarily a need to get him back. I'm in a good position with Evan Nielsen already in my squad. Keeping Arsenal defence all the way through looks good. I think MBEUMO makes a lot of sense. So that's probably going to be... It's not even probably going to be my move. I would say it's like 95% sure that will be my move. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Check out Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description below. And I will catch you tomorrow for final thoughts.